One of the most insane serial killers I have ever learned about, I still to this day believe didn't work alone. So you guys know Jack the Ripper, right? Well, this guy not only outlasted and outdid him, but he put New York in one of the biggest states of fear and taunted investigators for years. Before we get into who he is and why I don't think he acted alone, let's talk about what he did. The first kill he ever made was stabbing 2 young girls on Christmas Eve of 1975. At this time, New York was an absolute shambles. People were being killed and assaulted all the time. Robberies were happening, bodies were being found, and the police really couldn't keep up with everything, so whenever this happened, it wasn't like a big news headliner. Well, a few months later, 2 girls were shot sitting in their car. Both of them ended up surviving, but it happened so fast that they didn't have any information on the suspect. Just some .44 caliber bullets left on scene. Well, the next attack occurred whenever this couple was sitting in a car. They reported that the whole car felt like it exploded, and the girl looked over and saw a bullet wound in the guy's head. Because of the bullets used, the police were able to make the connections. Part 2 to the Son of Sam. So the police noticed that the same shell casing was used, and so far all victims were female with medium-length brown hair. Well, it did not take long for another attack to occur. A man approached 2 women asking for directions. When he asked, he took out a gun and shot both of them, leaving one paralyzed with a spinal injury. And then after this came another couple sitting in a car. The police, having no leads, were like, okay, we're gonna need to announce this to the public that we have a serial killer on our hands. They released the few sketches that they did have, hoping for a lead. He was announced in the paper as the .44 caliber killer. The police also let the public know that he was looking for women with medium-length brown hair. So many women during this time cut their hair, dyed it blonde, whatever, so that they didn't match this profile. After this came out, he ends up killing another girl on her way home from school, and another couple who was sitting in their car on a date. But this killing was very different. This time, he actually left a letter for the police. I'm going to insert the letter. He introduces himself as the Son of Sam, and his wording is just a little off. So the news decides to write him back. Part 3 to the Son of Sam. So let me just talk a little bit more about this letter before we get into it. He obviously refers to his father as Sam and himself as the Son of Sam. He paints his father as this very abusive figure that's essentially making him kill. He refers to himself as Beelzebub and as a brat, and we'll get to this later. So a very famous news article writer at the time named Jimmy Breslin writes to him begging him to stop. And not only does the Son of Sam respond to him, but Jimmy publishes his response. This changed journalism. I'll put the response right here, but he uses words like "from the gutter," Sam's creation. Meanwhile, the public is preparing for the anniversary of his first killing. Pepper spray has been sold out, everyone is terrified, and it just so happens on the anniversary, a blackout occurs. Looting, burning down neighborhoods, and all of the cops were working that night, but they got through the whole night without anything occurring. But not long after, another murder takes place. Robert and Stacy are attacked on their first date. Stacy is the only blonde that he ever attacked, but leaving her dead and Robert blind. After this, the police were able to collect 5 sketches, but all of them were different. Part 4 to the Son of Sam. Well, a woman ends up calling the police reporting suspicious activity. She was going for a walk when she saw a man hopping into his car. Instead of continuing into his car, he hops out and starts to approach her. She sees him start to take an object out of a bag, and she runs the opposite way, and then hears gunshots. Learning about all the nearby crimes, she makes the report. She also noticed that he had a parking ticket on his car. So the police find the parking tickets from that day from that area, figures out the license, and realizes the vehicle belongs to a guy named David Berkowitz. So the police call dispatchers inquiring about the ticket, and a dispatcher named Wheat Carr answers the phone, saying that she was his neighbor, and says, "Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Berkowitz. He's a very strange man who shot my dog that belonged to my father, Sam." So the police were like, Sam. Well, they get to his house and break into his car without a search warrant, and they find a lot of evidence, including a rifle, a map of the crime scenes, and a letter. So they wait for him to leave his apartment, and when he does, they ask him if he's David Berkowitz. And he responds with, "No, I am the Son of Sam, and you got me." Part 5 to the Son of Sam. So once they found and arrested David Berkowitz, they brought him in for questioning. And it only took investigators 30 minutes to get him to admit to everything. And his reasoning behind the killings was because of a 6,000-year-old demon dog who was speaking to him through the dog of his neighbor. He was the one calling the shots and demanding him to kill. And one particular investigator that was very obsessed with this case, named Maury Terry, was wondering why he didn't match any of the sketches. It's normal for eyewitnesses to be wrong to some degree, but you wouldn't describe Berkowitz as being 6 foot and blonde. There was also some worry if the evidence would even hold up in court, because they got it without a search warrant. But in court, David admitted to everything, so they didn't even need evidence. He was sentenced 25 years to life for each murder. So case closed, right? Well, if we look back to the letter, there's the name John Wheaties. Wheat Carr and John Carr are Sam Carr's children, Berkowitz's neighbors. And from looking at the eyewitness sketches, the sketches look more like John Carr, Sam's actual son.